I'm going to hop on and see if we want to look at our little dialogue thing here. It looks like we're good. So oh, that's funny. We have to turn that off, don't we? I just got a Skype call.
Oh.
I love it when it's perfect timing. There we go. Now it's set at Do Not Disturb. All right, so we're going to be live in just 60 seconds.
All right.
Well, rather, we're live right now, but we're going to start broadcasting officially in 60 seconds. Okay, there we go. Oh my gosh. My energy is low today.
Yeah, I could tell when I saw you yawn a few times.
I'm telling you, man, I just I haven't been sleeping very well. It's been a couple of days, and I just feel like it's catching up to me. You know, I couldn't survive off of, 5 hours, 4 hours, even 3 hours of sleep. I can go for days like that, but I really like 8 hours.
Yeah.
I feel powerful with 8 hours.
I like my 8 or 9.
Right? Oh, you are good. I think, I just imagine that, the body really appreciates having that extra time,
Yes, yes.
All right. So, okay, it's 4:30, so we are on. I want to welcome you to Wisdom Talks with Crystalline Bell. That's me. And Justine Arian. Say hi, Justine.
Hi.
And we come to you live every Monday starting at 1:30 Pacific Standard Time and 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. This dialogue lasts for about 30 minutes. Both Justine and I are life coaches. We have different kind of things that we do. We're a little different. We're very different, but we're both coaches. And these wisdom talks on Mondays are just an opportunity for you to kind of hear how two coaches talk about their perspectives. And so today, today we're going to be talking about parenting. Now, I don't have children. Justine has 2 children. So she's going to talk to you about some very practical aspects of parenting with little bairns. And I'm going to be talking more about parenting the little bairn that's inside of you, inside of every one of us. And that is the inner child. Because that little being needs to be parented like every other. Just like the little bairns that are running around on the outside, the ones that came from your womb. So the ego is the one that comes from your experiences and your perceptions. And that little one also needs nurturing. But before we really get started with that, I want to just turn the floor over to Justine so she can tell you a little bit about herself. There you go, Justine. And maybe you can even introduce us, take us into the topic for today.
Okay, great, thanks. Yeah, so I'm Justine Arian, for those of you who don't know me, and I've also been known as the mama coach and the pregnancy coach. And my life's work really started, I always knew I wanted to be a women's empowerment coach or girls empowerment, but my life's work really came to life through me giving birth to my daughter in 2004, and that's when I started focusing my life coach work with women around pregnancy, giving birth, and becoming moms. And so I can talk to you a little bit from my professional work that I've done, because I've led personal renewal groups for moms where, we really focus on bringing self-care back into the picture because it's so important. I think most of us didn't even learn how to do self-care before we had children, and then we have children and we really need to apply self-care. And so so that's something that I teach and have led groups and done work with women on, is really, what is self-care? What does that look like in your life, and how can you bring it into your life so that your cup is not running on empty, so that you're full and you have more to give to your children, more to give to your partner, more to give to your work if you work, and and just really to everybody in your life. And so so I've done some of that work, and this topic, I mean, we could go on and on and on, but what I'd love for us to focus on today really is Lynn talked about introducing the ego, right? And I see parenting as one of our greatest opportunities for really coming to know ourselves on a deeper level, and to really transform ourselves through our parenting experience. And also as an opportunity to really look at how we were parented and what that brought up for us, and how we function in the world as a result of how we were parented. And so, maybe, I mean, this is a huge topic that we could go, our 8-hour thing, Lynn, we
Yeah.
could go 8 hours, have our marathon. But, whatever comes up for us today, like, let's just go with wherever we feel called to go, because I think it'll be in service of everybody who's tuning in with us. And I think that, when we are able to look at our triggers, we talked about this last week on our chat last week, and really looking at our triggers, and what's triggering us is really just good information for us to look at what there is to be healed there still, what there is work that we can do to really evolve. And
so are you saying then that are you suggesting that maybe our children could possibly trigger us? Is it?
So you don't have children. So yeah, this is great, because here's me talking from my experience as a mom, not as a coach. But my daughter, who's my firstborn, I have 2 children. My daughter's 9, my son is 5, and my daughter has been my greatest teacher. She has triggered me left and right, up and down. I mean, it has, with her, I mean, I have been so challenged. I mean, she is the sweetest girl, but she is very much like me in that she's very strong-willed, opinionated. She wants to do what she wants to do. And she's also at the same time a very sensitive child. She's very emotional. She gets her feelings hurt easy. She's very sensitive in a lot of ways. And so it's really like called me forth as a parent. Like, how do I both parent and, in a way that is, me leading as a parent, being strong, setting a good example, but also in a way that's really compassionate to her and who she is as a person, and allowing her to fully express herself as a being, And
Justine, can I jump in right here?
Yeah.
I just want to, one of the things that's coming to my mind, and it's kind of going back to this idea of parenting as transformation and, children being triggers. As a spiritual coach, I kind of always work from a certain assumption, and that is that all of our relationships are chosen before we come into this physical form. And when I think about the mother-daughter relationship, I'm just going to say that because it's convenient for me, because that's what I know. My mom and I are, I don't know my dad, so mother-daughter relationship. And I know that throughout my mother's life, her whole life, um, I was a huge trigger for her in so many ways. Whether it was for moments of inspiration and feats of heroics, I was a trigger. Or if it were, triggering her own fears, insecurities, worries, concerns, all that, I was a trigger for her. So can you talk to us about that from your perspective? I've got some definite points of view, but I don't want to. I don't want to jump all over it, and take us off track. So I'm relying on you to hold us in space. Okay?
Okay. Well, I
Mm-hmm.
definitely value your point of view and your experience, so I think that would be beneficial for us to hear as well.
Thank
Um,
you.
and from my experience, it's like when I feel that I'm directly being challenged, when I am, it's kind of the power struggle, that I get into with my daughter, and when I feel like I'm directly being challenged, it triggers me to no end, and then we get into this downward cycle, and where it's me trying to get my point across, and it's her trying to get hers, and we both have these
Mhm.
needs that aren't being met in that moment, right? And so then it becomes, well, I'm the mom, you're just the child.
Good luck.
Right, and so then it becomes this like power over kind of relationship, and that doesn't serve anybody, because she's this child she has wants and needs, and she wants to get them met too, just like I do and you do and we all do.
Mm-hmm.
And so really for me the challenge has been in saying, okay, um she wants something here and so do I. And and sometimes there's a time for it to be my will over hers, for safety reasons or whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a time for that, but then to also be able to go back and address her needs at a later time. If I can do that, it's always because then it shows her that she is important, her point of view is valid, and that she is a human being that's respected, and I think
Yeah.
that that is so important for such an important message for us to give our children, is that, they can't always have their way, but their point of view is important and they do matter. And, when
Okay.
I can accommodate, I will.
Now you're making me um, awaken to a dynamic that I have in my own parenting for myself. Um, I do parent my ego, and this is something that's a new concept to me. I've only learned this within the last few years since I've been coaching. And I like to, in coaching, I like to think about the ego as being a child that lives inside of us. And this aspect of our being is very childlike. It can be afraid. It needs comfort. Um, it's this. It's kind of like the petulant child, is what I really mean to say. Not just the full child, which is the full I am presence, but it's like the petulant child that can um, act from its perception without having a very big, broad world view. So for me, the opportunity to parent comes when I see myself identifying with my ego, meaning I become very narrow-minded. I could become like I'm in the valley and I've only can see so much. And I'm very occupied or preoccupied by what I see uh, right in front of me. I don't take into account the big picture. Like you said with you and your daughter, when it's a question of safety, you know about the safety and your daughter may not know. You understand what's on the other side because you've been there through experience, blah, blah, blah. Same thing with the ego. Ego tends to get into its way. It lives in its past, and so it has its perceptions based on things that are very very small and narrow. My job as the soul, as the higher self, as the spirit having a human experience, needs to take control of the situation by allowing the ego to be nurtured or to be parented, and allowing that entity, that egoic self, to learn how to release. But the only way that it can release is to feel safe, to feel secure, to feel like the one who's in charge, the authority figure, the real authority figure, who is me, my higher self, my God self. Ego will surrender when that self acknowledges the ego, sees the ego, and can comfort the ego, and the ego then can trust and surrender and release.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if that has anything to do with, three-dimensional children,
Mm-hmm.
but, I mean, does it?
Yeah, absolutely. That makes total sense to me. And I think the key or the trick is in the parent, when the parent is triggered in that
Hmm.
experience, the parent being able to broaden their experience, broaden their perspective so that they can meet the need, that immediate need of that child. And they can create that safe container for the child to, express themselves or to do whatever they need to do, what their ego has going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so for me, like, it's okay, it's acknowledgement. Like, first of all, it's an awareness that, like, okay, something's going on here that's getting heightened. And then it's looking at, okay, how am I feeling? And then
Mm-hmm.
me just stepping back and allowing the space, because oftentimes when I give us both space, she'll calm down, I'll calm
Mm-hmm.
down, and then we can step back into relationship. We can reconnect, because there's this disconnect,
Mm. That's
right?
beautiful, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then we can reconnect. And I notice, for me, when I'm triggered, if I continue to elevate,
Yeah.
and I start yelling, and I go there, like,
Yeah.
it completely takes her on a whole nother trajectory too. Like, she starts freaking out and yelling and crying and just going deeper into the rabbit hole. And what I've learned to be able to do is to stop myself from elevating. Like, if I feel like I'm going to start yelling or I'm getting really agitated, then I can
Yeah.
stop myself and separate myself for a moment, even if it's just for a moment,
Mm-hmm.
enough just to bring enough awareness that, okay, I'm going there, like, stop. And then I can re-engage her when I'm in a calmer place, and I can say, okay, look, I understand you're really upset, or you really want this thing, and here's what I really want, or what I really need. So let's
Yeah.
come to some middle ground, or let's find a way to handle this situation. But
And what's her response to that?
Um, good, because I think
Mm-hmm.
what I've learned overall, it's about the connection. It's about maintaining that connection. As soon as we go into our dramas, there's a disconnect. There's this huge disconnect, and then we can't resolve anything. There's no, like, she goes into her thing, I go into mine, and then we're both all freaked out. And
Yeah.
so, and then it's hard. And then later we can come back and connect, once we've both blown up. But what we're getting better at is me, first of all, managing my own reaction. And then that
Mm-hmm.
gives her the space to really think about what is going on with her. And what I do in between those blow ups is help give her the tools. So when she's not in that heightened place of, freaking out, like, we'll work on, like, different tools of awareness and tools of, breathing and visualization. And I actually have her working with somebody professionally as well now
Mm-hmm.
on that. And it's been such a help, because I'm seeing now in the moment, because she sees me modeling and being able to manage myself better in these moments. And
Yeah.
so she's being able to pull on her tools to do the same thing. And we're able to maintain more of a connection. And it's been awesome. It's been awesome to see the progression of where we used to be and where we are now, that we can, even when we're both triggered, there's still some level of connection there that we can then rebuild from.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
It sounds like a very um, compassionate way of parenting, and it seems compassionate for yourself,
Mm,
and it seems compassionate for your daughter.
yeah.
Um, and for me, when I'm working with my own ego, it's essential that I am compassionate with myself. Um, and I mean, because this is the dynamic that's inside of me. And whereas your daughter is her own entity that is inside of you, but also, you're having a perception that she's outside of you.
Yeah.
My perception is that the ego is inside of me. That's how we do it in this world. But there is still they still have the same effect. Dis-ease, for example, if I don't parent my ego the right way, I will break out in eczema.
Mm,
My hair will fall out in patches with alopecia. My immune system becomes weak. I get sick. And I can always trace and foresee when I'm going to have a breakdown because I've not parented my ego.
uh-huh.
And yesterday, for example, I think it was partially planetary, but I'm going through a lot of changes as well, deep changes physically. Um, and my ego broke down. My ego was just, was holding me back, offering so much resistance. And the way I chose to parent it was to go in and to say, come on, let's just be with this and let's talk about what you're afraid of. And I allowed it to say, using the most negative, vile, fearful tones that it wanted to, all the words, it cursed, it said, I'm afraid, I hate this, I don't ever want to do that, never, never, never. It got it out. It threw a temper tantrum,
Mhm.
and then it went quiet. I let it watch movies all day, 5 movies it watched. We watched. We watched. And, normally I'd be like, okay, I don't want to watch that many movies. I've got things to do, blah, blah, blah. But I felt like my ego needed, and this goes back to the self-care that you were talking about as well earlier, Justine, giving yourself the space to do that, giving myself the space to do that. And by golly, if I had a child who was going through something, anxiety at school or whatever, I know that I don't have children, but I know because of the way I parent myself, I'm more likely to tell the child on this day, we're not doing anything but hanging out. We're just going to sit around and eat ice cream all day if that's what you need,
Yeah.
you know?
I love that you brought up like two things that really stand out in what you're saying for me is the safety, bringing, like, creating that container where, your child, inner child, outer child, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
really feels safe in this container, like they can really express themselves.
Yeah.
That I think that's so important, because when we react to our children, we make them wrong
Yes.
and they don't feel safe,
Yeah.
right? And so then there, if we want to maintain connection with our children, if we want them to
Yes.
be able to come to us and tell us anything, we need to create a safety container for them, and
Yeah.
so I love what you just said. It's so beautiful. And just saying, like, it just triggered for me, like, when my daughter says hate, I kind of make her wrong for that, you know, because I'm like, that is such a strong word, honey, you know, like I don't
Yeah.
want to hear you say that word. And but
Mm.
yet sometimes it's necessary, like if that's what she's really feeling and she
Yes.
needs to say that, like to let her say that is creating that safe container for her where she's not wrong, you know, and she can
Yeah.
express herself fully. So I love that you shared that. And also the compassion piece. I mean, for us to have compassion for ourselves first and foremost, you know, and not making ourselves wrong
Right.
how we parent or how we react or respond to a situation,
Yeah.
but rather we take that experience that maybe we aren't proud of or we didn't feel good about, and we say, okay, what is there here for me to learn? What is there, you know, how do I want to be? And
Hmm.
what can I take from this experience and move forward with in giving compassion to myself and my child? Because ultimately, I think all of us want to create connection with our children.
Yeah.
And we want to create and maintain connection. And when we make them or ourselves wrong, we're disconnecting. And so to just give compassion to ourselves, like, hey, you know what, I had a moment, like I parented in a way that I'm not proud of, you know,
Right.
I did something that, you know, I do not want to do. And to say, you know what, I'm human, and that happens, and there's something here for me to learn and to take forward. And it's an opportunity to assess, like, how do I want to be and who do I want to be with my child, you know?
Yeah. And what kind of respect? I mean, my God, a parent who parents that way is going to be viewed, particularly as the child grows older and matures. You know, they're going to go through the teenage years and be, you know, they're going to be a mess. It's not their fault. But the thing is, when they start to get older and they have to parent themselves out in the world, they're going to treat themselves with compassion. They're going to treat themselves with dignity. They're going to treat other people with respect. How could they not? That's
Yeah,
what they were taught. That's
yeah,
what they saw. They saw their mother doing that with
yeah,
them. They're not going to, they can't resist that. They won't know how to resist that,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
And it really is about us modeling that
Yes.
what we want for our children. So if we're so we can look at any opportunity, any trigger, anything that we encounter, and we can say, you know, what do I really want from this situation, or what do I really want my child to get or to understand or to know, you know? And that is, you know, then we do that which
Mm.
is in alignment, you know, in integrity with what we want. You know?
Yeah.
So it's and then when we do that, and not that we're going to be perfect, you know, and not that we're going to do it every time the right way,
Right.
you know, but it's like it's a practice, and it's exercising that muscle so that eventually it does get easier, and eventually it does become an automatic response. So rather than reacting negatively, we're reacting positively, you know.
Yeah.
And I do think that our children will just get that if they're growing up with that, and they see a parent who is not perfect and who will admit that they're not perfect, and who will say,
Yeah.
you know what, I'm learning too, just like you, like I'm going through this life and we're figuring it out as we go, you know,
Hmm.
and we're both going to make mistakes, and we're both going to do things we're not proud of, and then we get to choose in any
Yeah.
moment. We get to choose, right?
Wow, that's huge. I mean, and that's also for me, I'm thinking, my God, if somebody had told me that I don't need to be ashamed because they had done it too, if somebody had said that to me even one time when I was a kid, it would have changed like my whole way of being, you know?
Yeah.
But God bless our parents, man. They did the best they could.
Yeah.
We're in the new paradigm, you know. You know, we're the parents of the new indigo children, and they're coming in with these, you know, with the experience of having parents who have this wisdom at the ready for them. And it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Now, Justine, I'm thinking we better wrap it up because it's
Okay.
about time for us.
Wow.
I
That
know,
flew
I know.
by.
It came very quickly. So I think probably what I'll do is maybe offer you to say your closing first, and then I'll just hop in and just add whatever comes up for me from whatever you said, because you've been really inspiring me this this talk.
Well, awesome. Thank you. Like, I feel like when you started off this talk, you said that you believe that we all choose our relationships before we even come, into being, like into being birth. And I believe that every relationship is an opportunity for us to look at ourselves. We do choose our relationships. And whether we think we do consciously or unconsciously, we choose our relationships. And every opportunity, and maybe this is something we can talk about in the future, is love relationships, or friendship relationships, or just relationships in general, and about what there is, what they offer us from a personal growth perspective. Because parenting is definitely such an amazing opportunity for us to begin to look at ourselves as who we're becoming. Who are we becoming? And to really consciously choose that, because who we're becoming through our parenting is who we allow our children to become.
I love it. I love it, Justine, because as I parent my own ego, that just hit it home for me. As I parent my own ego, I am becoming more of who I desire to be, which is not the person that alienates her child and makes her child, who doesn't accept fully her child and who doesn't accept fully herself. By not accepting our children, we're not accepting ourselves. Yeah. And I instead embrace my shadow. I embrace my resistance. I embrace my ego. I love her. I love me. I love me because I love her. I love me wholly. Same thing with our daughters and our sons.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about that unconditional love. And and when we say, we experience unconditional love for the first time, really when we give birth to children, it's okay. So we're experiencing unconditional love, and yet we're putting conditions on it. And so what would it be like? Let me just leave you all with this. What would it be like to love yourself unconditionally, so that you can model for your children what that looks like?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's my thing, man. Because I don't have any little ones to practice on. I get to practice on myself, loving myself unconditionally. I'll tell you what it's done for me, but I'll do that in a different video. Because
let's talk about that next time.
I know, right? Unconditional love, what it did for me. But yeah, I'll definitely be sharing that with you in the future. That'll be fun for us. But I want to thank everyone for joining us today, joining us every week. Like I said earlier, we're here every Monday, 1:30 Pacific Standard Time, 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. And we're just having some meaningful discussions about things that are going to help us, help you be better at being your most authentic, creative, vivacious, vibrant, thriving self. So I'm Crystalline Bell. This is my buddy, Justine Arian. And we will catch you next week at the same time. Same bat channel. Namaste, friends.